Start streaming. Serious cold going on.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you got the lurgy going on there.
Yep, I do. Look, got the lurg.
Yeesh.
Okay, let's go live with this bad boy.
Okay.
And then I can do some sharing and shizzle. And open up the chat, which doesn't work properly, but still. Oh, it's up there now. That was from. Oh, we want. Cha-chunk. We got that. Fuss. Book. Right. Let us. You are very small in this window. Let us make you bigger. You've got like this picture of you as a grenade.
That's my Skype picture when I used to use this for work. Since I had to do effectively customer support some of the time, I thought that was quite amusing.
Right. Alright, okay. So it's just me and thee. And let's share this. And we'll be good to go. And then Matt will try not to sniffle the whole way through it. Actually, oh, he's got some balmed Kleenex. Balmed Kleenex. Would not advise to use these in the other way that you may use Kleenex. Definitely for noses.
And that's how we get 18 rated.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mark. I was talking about cleaning up the house with them. You filthy man.
And if you believe that, you believe most things.
Yeah. Right, okay. Post. And sharers. We share a lot. I care a lot. Okay, let's do this. So we'll knock that off. This will be over here somewhere. Let's do this over here. Okay. Alright. Give my noses. Good go. Alright. Okay, we're here. Alright, hey everybody, Matt Geary for the Geek Pride cast on this Tuesday evening. We are light on members today because Michael's microphone exploded in his face. Don't know what he's been doing with his microphone. But
you should never ever ask him questions like that.
But we have podcast regular Mark. Can he? No, can't he? How's things, dudes?
Yeah, not so bad. Not so bad. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad. By the lurgy. Basically, what happened is this time last week, I was at band practice, and we're all like, we're going to clean this place up. We're going to clean this place up, and it's like literally hasn't been touched in like 7 years. So there was just like my bassist, my drummers, like old spliff ends, and like just things everywhere. It was grim, and we felt very accomplished, sort of cleaning the place up. And we put lights everywhere, and it's got like fairy lights everywhere, and it looks really cool now. But I literally think I caught something from it because it's that bad.
You probably disturbed something that's been evolving for 7 years.
Yeah, probably, man. Like, it felt so dirty. It was horrible, and I've just been feeling grim for the last week. So yeah, kind of tail end of it now. But yeah, so there we go.
No dying on air.
Yeah,
no dying on air.
You know, I've got a low immune system, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So, what have you been up to since the last time we spoke? You've been painting any more of your Marines?
A little bit of painting, not as much as I should do, really. Lots of gaming with it, mostly getting my ass kicked. But there you go.
Go on then. Well, we can dork out about Warhammer for a bit before we talk about Ready Player One.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh dear, oh dear. No, I should say I'm being good. I had White Dwarf drop on the mat, and I haven't read it yet because I was making sure I was ready for the podcast.
Oh, right.
Otherwise, yeah, it never would have been ready at all, would I? I'm just reading another page.
I have 2 boxes full of old White Dwarfs in my house, and it's just like my mate left them here, and I was just like, I don't want them. I'm never gonna keep them. I don't want them.
We were clearing up in the back in the garage earlier on over the weekend, and I found like 2 boxes full of them. I was like, I'll get back to those later.
There's some really good old ones. Like I remember, like some of the ones where like the Legion of Doom, the Legion of the Damned come in and stuff like that, and you're just like, wow. And like I've still got that. I've got that one. It's not Rourke's Drift, but it's something else. But it's basically the Praetorians versus the Orcs. And yeah, it's I've still got that. Oh, I've got a big thing of popcorn. Yay, popcorn! This is my dinner. So
that's not a healthy diet, dude.
It's corny. So technically, it's one of my 5 a day, isn't it? Even though it's covered in caramel. Popcorn. What was I going to say? So yeah, who have you been playing? What have you been playing?
Well, mostly playing Imperials versus Imperials. It seems that that's the way around here. I got myself absolutely creamed by Grey Knights a couple of weeks back.
Really?
Oh, it's just one of those things where the dice hate you a little bit, and wherever you're pointed, they appear somewhere else. Because of course, most of this stuff can drop around. And I stupidly hadn't taken any psychers.
So they were smiting you to death. Smiting you to death.
Large lumps of smite and various problems with leadership tests and stuff as well, which is quite embarrassing when you're a Marine and they just keep on making you fail until you run out of rerolls.
I played against like 9 Hive Tyrants and they were just like smite. And I was like, what the fuck? But I was Custody, so it was kind of alright.
Yeah. But to be fair, I lost on victory points, but over 2,000 point versus 2,000 point game, we had like 5 units left on the board and 3 of them were mine. It was horrific. We absolutely shredded each other.
It's a good game that when you shred. I don't like getting absolutely obliterated. Like I played a guy called Josh, and he's like captain of the England team for 40k, and he basically runs 7 Dark Talons. So basically, you're getting like 7 sets of 20 assault shots plus a shot that does D3 mortal wounds on a 4. So you're just like, what the and you're fucked. And you can't do anything. And you know what the really annoying thing is? Because of the way the rules are written, you can't even go underneath them to sort of, try and because you can't go near their base. So you're just
no.
That's fucking annoying, man. So yeah, I got absolutely obliterated by him. He got actually in turn got obliterated by some Reaver spam, which was quite Dark Reaper spam. I mean, sorry, which was rather amusing. But there you go.
I'm surprised you're not buying a whole bunch of new Space Marine vehicles for your, anti-aircraft vehicles for your Space Wolves, just on principle.
Well, the thing is, I thought you could just kill the guys. When the chapter approved before it came out, it was like it was boots on the ground. You kill all the guys on the ground. Flyers left, you win automatically, but they've left that out in chapter approved, so you can't even do it. They can't take objectives, but they don't. The game isn't over when you use them, so it's just like, what the fuck? Because one of my mates did it, killed all his infantry, and they're like, yeah, game over, and he's like, nope, and he's like, yeah, it is. That's the new rule, and he went, nope, and he went and showed him because it left out that last. Standard Games Workshop with their rules. Let's make things completely ambiguous, and at the end, cut shit out so people. Yeah.
I must say I have actually just grabbed my copy of Chapter Approved, so don't mind me.
Yeah. Go towards the end, not the end. Basically, where the bit where it's like boots on the ground, and it leaves out the key point. It leaves out the key point about if the flyers are still only left on the board, then it's game over. I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it's on there.
So now everyone's got to wait for 2018 chapter approved to see if they get it right the second time round.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Yeah. And the Space Wolves when they come out, hopefully.
Well, they reckon it looks like they're looking at Orcs coming along next, by the sounds of things, with all the screaming and shouting. Obviously, we've got Drakari this week.
Yeah, Harlequins. Basically, this month's Harlequins, Dark Eldar, and what are they called? Death Watch.
Which I'm looking forward to, strangely enough.
Yep, Death Watch. And then what's left after that? Knights.
Orcs, Knights, because obviously I think Knights will be next.
Yeah.
Because we've got new armigers, courtesy of the new box set for Forgebane.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be Knights, then Orcs. I suspect you might see Face Wolves in just before we get to Warhammer Fest and stuff. I suspect.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think what's left after. So you got Orcs, Knights, and who else? Sisters.
Well, they are still teasing the Plastic Sisters for Adeptus Sororitas, aren't they?
Yeah. And who else is left? Thing is, I just don't, because I think it's meant to be a box set for the Space Wolves, so it's meant to be Orcs. So it might be Orcs and Space Wolves.
Might be, yeah.
And something else, but we'll see. We'll see.
You never know until they turn up, anyway.
Yeah.
I know that 2 of the guys were trying out the new Tau and Necron codexes last weekend.
Yeah.
That was quite brutal. That was one of those games where you just see bits of models come off the board, you know?
There's so many, like, the Dark Eldar stuff looks horrible, man. There's some of the stuff in that, and you're just like, they don't even need to have full battalions and stuff. They can just have patrol detachments.
Well, they benefit, don't they, from having multiple detachments, because they can have, in effect, 3 warlords with all the special rules, and then they get bonuses to their CPs for having different things as well.
Yeah.
So if they have one detachment of each kind, it goes up to they get like +4 CPs or something like that. And
well,
if
you do understand Warhammer talk, that's command points.
Yep. Sorry. So loads of horrible extra things to be done to you, and then if you get one from every single individual option? So there's like 6 of them total they can go with. They can go up to like +8 CPs.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
On top of your 3 basic for like a 2,000 point list. You know, you're sort of like, okay, so he's just basically going to tap dance on my skull.
Yeah, pretty much.
Of course, yeah,
it's horrible.
Great.
It's absolutely horrible, man. But yeah, there you go. Okay, so we've obviously both been to see it. We've both been to see the film that came out this week, Ready Player One.
Yeah.
First up, have you read the book?
3 times. Third time was in February just to get ready.
Ah, right.
And I've got Armada squared up next to my reading list after I finished my current book as well, just for the hell of it.
Right. So you said, actually, no. We'll talk about your missus afterwards. You what did you think?
Not my missus, it's my friend's missus that we were joking about earlier on.
Okay,
so I quite enjoyed it. My missus, who's not seen it and is totally non-geeky, also quite enjoyed it. But I had obviously kind of paid enough attention to know that it's not like a strict adaptation of the book. It takes its own sort of approach to things. I can see why they did what they did, because obviously you don't really want the sheer amount of introspection and time covered that you have in the book. You have a different pacing.
Yeah.
But there are places where I did think they really did push it a bit faster than they should do. They did jump over a couple of bits in places where they just assumed you'd run with it in places. But I think overall I really enjoyed it. It was definitely Spielberg doing his thing with the adventurous sort of bouncing around and cute kid option with a little bit of self-referential sarcastic humour and all that.
Yeah.
But I think it worked quite well. Possibly the villain of the piece was a little tiny bit too much on the scenery chewing side of things.
I think I'm currently writing a review and it's pretty much done. The review's pretty much done. But I sort of kind of went through certain parts why I think he's done what he's done. Now, the book, there is a lot of exposition on about the world in 2045, or is it 2045, something along those lines?
2040.
Yeah, 2040. Obviously his life, how things, his school, obviously the school's in the Oasis. FYI, by the way, if you haven't watched Ready Player One, or you haven't read the book, or you don't want us ruining this for you, you better not listen any further, because we're probably going to talk about it all now. So you've been warned. So if you pop in on this, and you know, you get annoyed at us, you're gonna have to listen back for this warning, because we're warning you now that this is what's going to all be about. So yeah, so there's lots of stuff about his school, and obviously the school's on the Oasis, and there's like a lot about how, you know, making money and things. It's not just a case of, you know, making money and all these other things, and I can kind of see why they got rid of that. Even some of the the sort of exposition around Halliday and Morrow, their relationship, it's, you know, it was sort of to streamline things. Like, they could probably have made 2 films out of it, but would you have wanted 2 films? I'm not sure, to be honest.
I don't think it would have worked very well. There's people I've seen people comment saying that they should have done it as 3 films, with one for each key, finishing in the big climax and all that. And I think the problem with that is it just would have taken too long to get where they wanted to go.
Yeah.
And the book itself is good as a book. The pacing's great for a book, but jumping in sort of 2/3 of the way in terms of his economic development makes him a better film protagonist, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it's true, because he obviously, you know, he doesn't start off with a lot of money. He has to do a lot of sort of advertising and things like that. And, it's been a long time since I've read the book, so sort of from what I remember,
the first part of the book is mostly about how his limitations, in some ways, actually make him better able to find it because of the way everything's arranged. Whereas in this current one, they've decided that they want to use the races and challenges that way around, because it's obviously more engaging for people to watch big flashy races and funky explosions and all that sort of thing, rather than people sneaking around and playing video games.
Well, I think one of the issues you're going to have, where they may have come up with, and this is, again, I've stuck it on my review, but licensing. Now, the first 2 quests in the book, the first one's a Dungeons and Dragons quest, and, you know, I think he plays Joust with the guy at the end. And then you have a second one, which is a game of Zork.
It was based around Zork, wasn't it?
Yeah, based around Zork.
Yeah.
Now, those 2, those aren't the licensing issue. Sorry, I'll move on to that. But those 2 are quite obscure. Now, everybody knows Dungeons and Dragons, and everybody kind of know. Well, a lot of people know what Zork is, but it's very sort of niche. And I think had they had a film where they focused it on Dungeons and Dragons and Zork, you would have lost quite a substantial amount of your average Joe who just wants to see stuff blowing up and computer game stuff, you know, who might not count themselves as a nerd, but sort of kind of enjoys that sort of thing. And if you had a, you know, basically a Dungeons and Dragons quest and then a text-based sort of text-based adventure quest with some rush trivia thrown in, then people would just be like, I don't get it.
But that's the thing, with a book, you have the thing where if people are interested, they can go away and look, and it doesn't break the immersion. In a film, there's so much less time to work with in order to keep people interested, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it. And that's why I sort of made the point. It says, does it matter? You know, there's like, and like, I am very, very, very sort of, I get very annoyed when books I like don't get sort of, what's the word? Loyally, faithfully sort of kind of adapted. Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings. Well, Lord of the Rings, you know, I could sort of accept and stuff like that. You know, sort of, there's a lot of things where I'm just like, that didn't happen in the book, and it took me a while to sort of get over Game of Thrones because there's a lot of changes that I kind of liked, and I couldn't see why they would have changed them because it just didn't make sense. In this case, having read the book, and as much as when I first watched it, I was slightly, not disappointed, I was just like, oh, this isn't like the book, but it didn't annoy me, and because I kind of grasped what they were doing. I could understand that certain things, like Blade Runner's a big thing in the book, so Blade Runner and the test they do. Now, Blade Runner, I'm guessing you're going to have licensing for that. There's a lot of things they would need licensing for, and there's no way they could have got that. It couldn't even be with Rush. They didn't even have a Rush song in there. Even I don't even think they had it on the soundtrack. But
Nope.
you know, licensing would be a big issue. So think about Spider-Man and how long it's taken Marvel to get get Spider-Man back to be in his films. Ages. And so it's not a case of it can be faithful to the books, because it can't, because I reckon there would have been a lot of licensing conflictions, and it would just be a quagmire of red tape, and you just wouldn't get it finished. So I think what he's done kind of works, because he's done what he can with what he's got.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I saw discussed was, obviously in the book you have Ultraman is like the key to the end fight, isn't there, with all the giant robots and everything else.
Yeah.
And obviously they've used the Iron Giant, because it turns out that apparently the two guys that created Ultraman, their families are actually caught up in a legal fight over the rights to the name and the property, which means that no one can license it, because they both have to agree, and they're both at each other's throats in court at the moment.
Right, I need to write that down. I need to write that down. That'll go in my article.
I mean, that's what I heard. You could double check it. I mean, that's something I read somewhere else. So they needed a big unit to be part of that big thing at the end, and so they turned around and looked at what Universal already had access to, and obviously they had the Iron Giant because they did the film. So they kind of worked in places around what they had to hand, But
that's it, isn't it? Because you could tell there were specific things that they were using, specific genres. A lot of Xbox stuff, there was a lot of sort of...
it's more modern in how they looked at it. It wasn't quite so... it had a lot of the 80s stuff, but they weren't afraid to dig out the fact that other people would be doing stuff in between. So you saw stuff from Overwatch. There's a cameo from Shepard from Mass Effect, the male Shep.
Wow,
disco scene.
Where was he?
He's in the disco scene when they go into the club.
Because I'm listing all the things that I missed out on Shepard disco.
Yeah. Because apparently there's a couple of shots you see him walking through a crowd, and then you see him doing his infamous dance on the dance floor at one of the things. They're just with the arms and they're sort of swinging their hips.
Well, we're sort of kind of going all over the place, but we'll go into that. So, these are the things that I saw. Obviously, the Overwatch guys, we saw that. Multiple Street Fighter guys. So you saw Ryu, you saw Blanca, saw Chun-Li, Ken potentially. I think I'm not 100% sure. Ryu, I saw a few times. Then we saw obviously Spartans from Halo, Elites from Halo. We saw Marvin the Martian. We saw let's see, who else did we see? Oh, I've got a bloody list and it's not in front of me, so I can't remember. And you know what? I'm gonna get my list out. Where's my list? Okay, so here we go. Yeah, obviously you got the Gundam. Is it Deadpool or is it? It
was Deadshot, I think. Oh, no, not Deadpool. No, not Deadshot. Deathstroke.
Deathstroke.
Yeah. It wasn't Deadpool because it was the tall, big shoulders and everything else.
Yeah, I thought it was either Deadpool or Deathstroke. You've got it's disappeared now.
So you had a bit of Tomb Raider in there. With Lara Croft, I think, from memory.
I saw Joker, Catwoman, Batman,
Harley.
Harley, yeah.
Batgirl
Harley
as well. I saw Batgirl in the battle scene just before the big boom.
Harley. Then I saw Battletoads, Jim Raynor from StarCraft. His auntie's boyfriend was playing Jim Raynor from StarCraft. Obviously, there was the Minecraft stuff. The Akira bike, obviously, the DeLorean was in there. Mecha Godzilla,
of course, but that was just an awesome thing to have in there, and they managed to keep that from the books.
Yeah, Mecha Godzilla. You had the pulse rifle from Aliens. What's her name? The lass was the one who drove the Akira bike. What's her name? Artemis.
Artemis, yeah.
Artemis. Then there was the Lancer from Gears of War. Obviously, the holy hand grenades.
Yeah, the hand grenade was worth it.
and this is an amazing one. And I thought like I was probably going to be the only person to get this because like nobody has probably watched this film. Do you remember the film Excalibur?
Yep.
Yeah. The magic words are the words.
I knew I recommended them. Yeah, it's the spell that
yeah.
Organa
be fud. Yeah. Off the envy. Because I've watched that film so many times as a kid, partially because when you're a teenage kid, there's lots of boobs in it, but you know it's about knights and stuff. Yeah, there's knights in it and stuff like that.
But there's one that you didn't get. You know the box that the orb was in.
Yeah.
Did that look familiar?
No.
I had to go back and look it up because it was one of those things where it looked familiar and I went and dug it out. It's the box that they brought the Mogwai home in Gremlins.
No way! Oh, brilliant!
With the string handle and stuff.
Box Mogwai. I'm writing these down. Mogwai. Wow. There's so much, and I'm pretty sure if you go back. There's gonna be loads more that you've missed. Obviously, there's Godzilla, and then there's the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, and stuff.
Of course, Daisho when he jumps in with his jumps into the battle. Of course, what did he jump off of? He jumped off the loading ramp of Serenity.
No, was that?
Did you not notice that?
I was sitting there kind of going, I recognise that from Serenity.
Yeah, it was off the front loading ramp. Because of course, in the book. That was one of his ships, wasn't it? That was one of Parsifal's ships in his fleet.
He gets killed in the books, doesn't he?
That was Sho, not Daisho. Sho was the little kid.
Yeah, Sho.
But he was a bit old. He was older in the books, but he was one of the ones that got killed at the same time as they went after Wade, wasn't he? Because once they figured out who he was.
Yeah.
And I think they decided that they just they were going to keep the famous five all the way through this time round instead.
Yeah.
Plus, if they wanted to make him a kid, if they started killing kids in a Spielberg movie, I think he'd have to go and hang his beard up somewhere, wouldn't he?
Yeah, big time. What else? There was there was something else. You said it. Oh yeah. The shuriken he throws is from Krull.
Oh, the glaive.
Yeah, the glaive from Krull.
Yeah.
So there's loads, man. It was just sitting there, and I was sitting there trying to not miss stuff. And I feel like
I gave up on that. I think I'm going to go back and watch it again this weekend because the other half's away, and I know that she wouldn't put up with it a second time round. And then I can just sit there and nitpick stuff.
Yeah,
because I've got an unlimited card, so why not use it? You know?
Yeah, why not? Why not use it, eh? But yeah, I loved it. I actually loved it. I actually gushed slightly. I know part of me was slightly sort of unsure. At the start, I was a bit sort of, I don't know if I'm liking this or not, because it was a lot different, and I was like, I'm sort of fighting with my sort of reader person inside, kind of going, this is different than the book, you must hate it with all your luck. And so I was just like, but I kind of got over it pretty quickly because there was just a lot going on, and it was just like this assault on your nerdy senses. It was just like everything, all these things. I was like, oh my god, that's that! Oh my god, that's that! It's fucking, oh my god! And you're just like, it was just amazing. And it wasn't the storyline. The storyline actually made me slightly emotional in a way. I got slightly emotional towards the end. I was getting a bit anxious. At the end, I was getting a bit anxious, and I just got a bit. I don't know why. I just got a bit emotional, and I was just like, just a bit sort of like, nerds, and it was just a good. And I'll probably articulate this a lot better in my article than I will now, but
easy to edit that way around.
Yeah, it is easy that way, right? But it felt to me like there was a lot of lessons, right? So you had the lesson that it showed geek culture in all of its sort of multicolored spectrum. So you had basically, you had the friendship, and you had, competition, but you also had addiction, and you had sort of, knobheads, basically, trolls and things, and you had you had people you had the whole spectrum there, so you could see why, and you could see see the whole sort of, what it is to be a geek in a way, and
but they also didn't try and stereotype them, because
No,
because when especially at the end, towards the end, when you see people running around all tot up in it, and that big scene at the end with everyone coming out, there was no theme to it. There was men, women, old people, younger people, stay-at-home mums, tracksuits, weird cyberpunk type gear stuff, and it was just a random selection of all these different people that were all kind of unified by the same thing.
And I think, but what I quite liked is because there was obviously that whole sort of like this is what it is to be a geek, to want to escape from reality, and I think that maybe that wasn't what made me slightly emotional, but it's just like trying to, having been a World of Warcraft addict for a long time when I was younger, knowing what it's like to want to escape, knowing what it's like to sort of live in a game and have friends and have not relationships, but people you like, and sort of just generally being happy in there and just not wanting to be in the real world. And I think there was the moral behind it was, it's like, there's a lot of people who kind of say, I was expecting him to use, I can't remember the name of the power-up that basically killed everything, or I was you would expect him to sort of press the red button and just shut the whole thing down, but he didn't. And I think the whole thing, it wasn't sort of all or nothing. It wasn't like, you don't need computer games, you can go out and play, or you don't need, you should live in the computer game. It was a good, happy medium. It was
the concept that you have to find a balance yourself.
Yes, that was it. And it was a good moral to have. It was sort of like, you know what, it's all well and good. These things can be amazing. These whole things, these immersive games, the whole culture can be amazing, but you do need to sort of get out and about sometimes and do different things. And I thought it did that really well. I think, the underlying morals behind it and the underlying sort of story behind it, I really picked up on that. And I think that's why I sort of got it. And for me, it was just like, I loved it. I came out of it just sort of kind of going, I'd well watch that again. And I just felt sort of happy. And a bit sort of like, that's amazing. I feel good. It's just sort of.
I didn't really do World of Warcraft, but I had some experiences with City of Heroes. I don't know if you remember that. That was that lasted for a fair number of years. That was a superhero themed MMO.
Yeah, I downloaded that on my Xbox recently. I haven't played it, but I heard about it.
Well, City of Heroes is all dead now because NCSoft killed off all the servers and stuff.
Right.
There's a few tributes to it, but I had a really good time in it. I sort of jumped in and out of that from when it first came out in beta over in America through to when it went down. And I've got a couple of friends into it, and I made a friend or two through that I still stay in touch with even to this day, which is it's quite cool in its own way. So as you said, that community kind of thing was there for me to kind of attach to. But similarly, I had my two friends with me who had finished listening to the audiobook, the Will Wheaton narrated audiobook, literally while they were waiting to meet me and my partner to go and watch the film. Yeah. And I had pre-warned them. I said, look, just remember, bear in mind, I've been told it's not like a strict adaptation. It's a companion, really. It's kind of the same themes.
Yeah.
I broke myself of that need for everything that's adapted to be exactly faithful from a fairly young age. I used to read Tom Clancy books when I was younger, so you can imagine the books to the films, and various other stuff I've read over the years. I've taught myself that you walk into the film and you try and assess it on its own merits and see if it actually has anything in common with it. And I enjoyed it, but all the way through, my mate's other half, who, to be fair, is red-headed and Scottish, was just sitting there absolutely furious. Luckily she was fairly quiet. She was obviously mainly talking to him, but she was picking out all of it. But that's in the wrong place, and that shouldn't be there. And why is it there? What happens there? And and it was just like we came out, and I was just like trying to say to her, you can't. You need to understand, it's not going to work that way for various reasons. She said, but it was different.
I know, and that's it. And if I can kind of understand, because if somebody destroyed a book I love, and I love that book, it's a big massive thing, a part of my sort of geek sort of what's the word,
Yeah.
tapestry. If there was the Matto tapestry, you know, Ready Player One would be up there, sort of like me, sort of like very biblical, sort of kind of like that. You know, Ben Fee handing it to me. Read this book, Matt. So I'd read Ready Player One, and that sort of kind of went, oh my god, this book was written for me, and I just feel like it's everything I've ever wanted, and it was just like I felt like that he just reached inside my mind and found everything that I wanted in a book and put it on the page. And so I understand that, you know, I should, by all, you know, right, be really annoyed that this film is pretty much a shit. It's like it's by name only and sort of main themes, but pretty much there's not very much in the book that's in the film, really. And
20% overlay, I'd say, but not always in the right order.
yeah. And I didn't bother me. It didn't bother me. I thought it would, but I got past it really quickly, and it was just because, like you said, it was a companion, and it made such a good job. And I could understand why they wouldn't have done certain things. I went into it understanding that there's no way they're going to be able to get a lot of these things because of licensing issues, and I know they're not going to be able to do this. So I just wanted to be as best the film it can be for what it is, and they nailed it. You know, I don't even really like the bit, you know, Mar at the end in the book. They go to Morrow's house and he gives them all this equipment and he helps them fight the battle and stuff. But you know, him giving them the sort of Wade the being Ask Jeeves. So he's Ask Jeeves effectively, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he gives him the coin, the level up coin, and I thought that was amazing. You know, I thought that was such a good idea, and I didn't even think when he gave him the quarter. Because you think about it now, a quarter, you know, obviously it's an extra life, and you didn't think about it, but yeah, that was really good. I really enjoyed it.
I do think they should have used Simon Pegg more, though. I really wish that they'd found a way to play it around and had to give him Ezog more time, whether it was in the club or whatever else. But I can understand why they did the way they did. I just wish they could have done. I think it's probably the biggest regret I have about the whole thing is they didn't use him more.
Well, he did the voice of the
but
I think the thing is, I think it's a case of if you add too much, you're going to start sort of overcooking it slightly, and then you're basically moving on to sort of territory where it may get bogged down in stuff that's not really that important to the main theme of the thing. Like all the stuff that I think they stripped aside, all the exposition and, you know, all the stuff at the start, all the school stuff, all the things like that from the book, I don't think did it any harm. It didn't do it any harm, and I think I think for what it's done, I think they've done a good job. It isn't the same, and you know it is. And I think I say this in my review at the start. If you go to see it to get a loyal adaptation of the book, you're not going to get it. You're going to be very disappointed. If you go in with an open mind and accept that it's I can't even think of the words. It's like an overlay. It's like it runs alongside the book basically. Yeah. It's a new sort of adventure with the same characters effectively. But it's amazing. It's like when I get over Game of Thrones. Like once I got over the whole it's not going to be a book thing, I really enjoyed it, and you know I could enjoy it, and I think in the same way, if you can get over that, then you will fucking love it because it's just so. It is like if you haven't read the book, you're going to be fine. If you haven't read the book, it will be a film. It'll be like me reading the book. It's going to be a film that they've made just for you, especially if you're more, a younger nerd or a younger geek who's grown up with certain things, because there's so many references to modern sort of contemporaneous sort of geek culture in there, and you'll be like, oh my god, and you will literally just buzz off all of it. There'll be so much that you can go back and pick up on. So yeah, and the Shining thing, which isn't in the book, was awesome. It was so good.
That was so well done, wasn't it? Yeah. And it's like you could just see when you saw H wandering off, you're like, don't go with the ball, don't go, don't do it. It's a really bad idea. Yeah. But I mean, I think the thing that the thing I would say is for everyone to remember that the original book was released back in 2011, You know, and it was being written before that. So it's 10 years since that book was released. And yes, it's not the same, but Ernest Cline was still involved. He still gets script writing credits and everything else. It's, you know, but it's the same concept, the same idea. It has the same heart, but it's written for a different medium, and it's Ernest Cline with contributions from like Steven Spielberg and all this other stuff. So I think it's a different approach to the same idea. It has the same effect, as you said, to people if they can get away, if they can separate it from the book. It's like watching. I'm trying to think, it's like watching Batman the animated series.
Yeah.
When you grew up on the '60s version of Batman.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's a very different. You know, they both have their nods to geek culture. They both come from the same roots. They have the same kind of ideas, but a very different voice. And you don't have to love one and hate the other. You just have to accept that, you know, in the same way as a lot of us have had to accept over the years, that the creator gets to sometimes reinterpret things, but you've got to look for the positive in it rather than getting hung up on what's different, because you'll never get anywhere then.
Well, that's it,
and
isn't it?
You'll never enjoy anything. You'll lose all the good bits because you're so busy being.
See, if you can my issue is I can understand why people get angry if it's just changed for change's sake, and it's like there's no sort of, there doesn't seem to be any reason behind it. So changing things in Game of Thrones, like names and certain things that have gone on, and not having certain characters in it, seems slightly annoying to me, because there's no real reason why they shouldn't be there. It won't sort of break the story as it is, and in certain ways may enrich it. But in this case, because you have so many geek references and there's going to be so much red tape around them, that you have to accept they need to go with what they've got. So basically, whatever they've got in their catalogue, they've used, and I think they've done a good job there. I'm not a massive race sort of guy. You know, I would have enjoyed a Dungeons and Dragons quest at the start as well, but, you know, I thought the race thing was good, just for, like, you know, seeing the different vehicles, and, you know, I think that got them to the point very quickly. You know, and there's bits, like, in the book, they've got that, the chat room, which is basically like an 80s arcade. Basement. And I think, you know, if they put that in, would it have done anything for it when they can just kind of send, you know, it would have slowed it down slightly. I think the speed and the pace it had was very good, and it didn't bog it down, and you got a good sort of feeling. Now, there's a lot of people who, I don't care, I don't mind about long films, so I could happily watch another hour or so of it and stuff, but, you know, as it was, for a general sort of beacon of geek culture and stuff, I think it was a good thing. And I really enjoyed it. I think, you know, if I was to sort of give it a star rating, I'd probably give it 4.5.
About right, yeah. But just think, we might get a director's cut as well.
No, that's it, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. So you go, and then it just made me want to go and read the book again. So, and my brother, I bought him the book years ago. And I was like, dude, you need to read this book. It's amazing. And he was just like, yeah, okay. And he stuck it on the pile of books that he's probably been bought over the years. And now that he's seen the film, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go back and read that book. And I said, because it's completely different. Well, not completely different, but it's sort of, you know, there's a lot of themes in it which aren't in there. Yeah. And, you know, so you should go back.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, a book has so much more time to work with and so much more space. You can have lots more layers and subtexts, and you can jump backwards and forwards within it and have people literally go back and reread bits. So you can play around with things a lot more subtly. With a book, you have the time and the space, and you have an unlimited effects budget. And as you said, no licensing issues really, because most people won't. You know, for something like that, they're not going to bother about it. Yeah. But with a film, you have to lead people by the nose to some extent, and you almost, you know, especially when they're going for the pop culture side of things, there are times when their impulse is just to grab you by the collar and smack you around the face to make sure you noticed and to keep you moving. And you have to for some people, don't you? Because some people they don't really get it unless it's slapped, it smacks them in the face and it's rubbing all around in their face to get their attention. And, look at the screen.
There's a lot of slapping and things getting rubbed in people's faces.
With geek culture stuff, I'm an older geek. I'm 41 now, so a lot of the stuff in the book they're referencing, I remember growing up around or seeing on the TV and stuff like that. For younger people, it's kind of cool because the 80s is cool, but they don't. With the book, they can go and look stuff up. You've got entire wikis full of stuff for people reading Ready Player One. When you're in the film, it has to be, look, this is really cool. Right, on to the next thing.
Yeah. I agree. Oh crap! I was going to say something there and I can't remember. I got completely sidetracked in my mind. I saw your Batfink. Is it Batfink?
Yep.
Batfink. I saw Batfink, and I confused myself, and I was like, "That's Batfink," and I completely forgotten what I was about to say.
I think about it. Have you got Netflix?
I do have Netflix.
Have you seen The Toys That Made Us?
Yes, fucking amazing.
I was watching that. I finished watching it before I went Friday, Saturday, and I was just like, there must be more episodes of this.
Thing is, looking back, it's like some of those old Star Wars toys are proper shit looking, aren't they? You look back and you go, oh shit, I love them.
And the He-Man as well. I mean, I was looking at those. Seriously, we bought those? We bought it because it smelt so bad that you wanted to throw it away?
The guy, the guy who invented He-Man, and there's obviously a bit of dispute. He was amusing. The guy, the artist guy, he was just like, he was a weird
unapologetically one. Look at me. I'm weird, but I'm cool, and I'm working with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've just remembered what it was. There was a few bits that are obviously the same as the book, and they were exactly as I imagined them to be. Like the bit at the end when he's in the big room. That's what I sort of envisaged when he was sort of, I don't know what it is, but I looked at it and went, holy shit, that's come from my mind, that's on screen. I was just like, and that really sort of kind of helped me, made me buzz a bit, because I was just like, wow, that's exactly how I imagined the whole thing. The battle at the end as well was very close to how I sort of kind of saw it, though in my mind's eye I was slightly further back and I was looking at it sort of like lots of guys sort of coming in and piling in and stuff. And yeah.
There's the whole thing where it's all quiet. And they're like, and you just hear, and the rumble starts to come up through the subwoofer, and it's like, oh look, there's a big wave of cloud, a big cloud of darkness coming up from the horizon. I guess they paid attention after all.
Yeah, man, brilliant. That whole thing, just like them all flying into each other, attacking and stuff, and just sort of giving everything up. That was it. There's like giving up. They could zero out everything just to sort of kind of fight for the Oasis.
And I rock when he gets his arm ripped off and he's running away, scooping up the coins as they come out of him. That's just like, and then he's just running away as the bomb goes off, and just not quite making it.
That guy, the guy, oh god, names.
Irock,
yeah, because he's not in the book. He's in
the book.
He's in the chat room.
He's that lurker, isn't he? He's the lurking. He wants to. He's a bit of a wannabe in the book, isn't he?
Yeah.
But in this one, they turned him into less of a wannabe, more of a griefer, sort of troll sort of character.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like when he loses his arm and all the gold's fucking like going
Yeah, exactly. And he's running around trying to scoop up the coins as fast as you can.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Straight out again.
Yeah, really amusing. Yeah. So loved it. I'm not, I didn't sort of come out of it raging. No, I can see why some people might be slightly upset, but again, I would say to them, there was no real other option. You were not going to get a book like the book. One, because, like you said, it's like 10 years, nearly, after, obviously, from when he started writing to when it was released. And, they need to enfranchise people who aren't into that sort of thing completely.
It's more inclusive. He wrote for people his age.
Yeah, exactly.
With that book. And it grabbed a lot of other people as well. But also, I mean, there's something I was reading the other day which I didn't realise, which was I can't remember the name of it. His screenplay was the one that they filmed about the guys that were trying to steal the Phantom Menace, the early cut of the Phantom Menace, for their mate that was dying, going back into the 90s when Star Wars first came back out, and he'd written a treatment for it that got filmed. It didn't quite come out in time; it came out late. But even when he first wrote, when he was writing screenplays instead of novels, he was writing geek stuff that talked to people.
Yeah, yeah. Have you read Klein's second book? Because I've heard
Armada, yeah.
Yeah,
I've read it before. It wasn't too bad. I've got it lined up as my next read after I've read what I'm reading at the moment. I'm reading through some independent author stuff at the moment, so I've got that to go back to. It wasn't bad, I think. So I'm going to go back to it now.
What's the premise on it?
So the premise is you have a kid that you have a kid sitting in class that suddenly everyone starts freaking out. He looks out the window and there's a UFO, and he recognises the UFO because it turns out that it's something that he's a big player of this online sort of space shooter.
Yeah.
That's all about defending the Earth from alien invasions, and it turns out that it was basically the last Starfighter type of thing.
Oh, I was going to say that. Yeah.
This, and
it's
the alien armada they've been killing is actually there, and so suddenly all these people that have been playing this video game and getting grief about it, they're in the core of defending the Earth with all these skills they've learned against an enemy they've learned to fight because it was real all the time.
Okay. Right, okay.
So I
heard mixed things about it, so I wasn't sure.
I think from memory it wasn't quite as solid, but I want to go back and have a look at it now. Sort of, it's been about 4 or 5 years since I read it, so give it another try. Yeah.
The last Starfighter. No, that was a film.
That was classic. That was absolutely classic. Oh. But I mean, I actually had a really good geeky weekend anyway because I also finally managed to catch Pacific Rim 2 on Sunday as well.
What's that like? Because I've heard some really bad things about that.
It's actually a lot of fun. If my other half enjoyed it, there are some places where it is unashamedly trying to push things a little bit too hard, and John Boyega is, and Scott Eastwood are seriously needing to work a little tiny bit on the people on the script editors to stop being quite so blunt about things.
Right.
But they carry it fairly well, I must admit. The effects are as good, if not better, than the first one, and there's some unashamedly geeky nods, like of all the places that could have to get leveled by giant robots and monsters in the finale, it had to be Tokyo, really.
Really?
Yep. Absolutely. All that stuff you've seen in the trailer.
Yeah.
There's so much of that is basically all from the last 15-20 minutes of the film.
Right.
And they've kind of ripped whole bunches out, not necessarily always in context, but you've got throwing robots and monsters through buildings and picking up cars and chucking them at each other, all this sort of thing. It's just it's bubblegum, but it's enjoyable enough. It's big and it's loud and it's brash, and they have insert big stirring speech here in places. A couple of places it's taking the mickey a little tiny bit, but it's doing it with a bit of a nod and a wink. But it's fun.
Okay, cool. I'll give that a whirl then next. My missus, I don't think she's that interested. She wasn't interested in Ready Player One. She can go and see that on your own with your mates. So I was like, all right. And I don't think she'll be interested in Pacific Rim either. She went to see Peter Rabbit. It's just like, I want to see Peter Rabbit.
Talk about soulless cash grabs.
Yes. Oh, what's his name? Irish actor. Played Hux in Star Wars. Ginger-haired fellow.
Domhnall Gleeson.
Gleeson. Yeah, it's like he always seems to play. He's getting a bit typecast at the minute as being a bit of a bad guy. Or bits
It's
of a
shame
shit.
because
Yeah.
he does quite well in another one. I mean, you've watched About Time, yeah?
Yeah, mate, that was so good. Yeah. And obviously Ex Machinima.
Ex Machina, yeah.
Yeah, Machinima,
Yeah.
And that's an amazing film.
Indeed.
And stuff. Yeah. He does, that the time one. That's really good. It's quite sort of quite.
That was like as a touchy feely film that stuck in as a genre film at the same time. I thought, which was quite amusing.
He was also in obviously Black Mirror. He played the one. where he's killed, and I'm so bad with names. The last who played Peggy Carter,
Haley Atwell.
Yeah, Haley Atwell. She obviously gets all of his memories, stuff from the internet, and puts it on into this sort of like body, and it's him, but just his artificial, and it's weird, but it's really good.
I will have to look at that. I've watched the most recent Black Mirror, and I'd watched the first couple, but I kind of missed a bit in the middle, so I might have to catch up on that. I mean, the last lot of Black Mirror was very good, admittedly.
Yeah.
Slightly screwed up in places, but it is Black Mirror.
Yeah.
But I just need to play catch up, I think.
That's like definitely one worth watching. That is definitely very good. So,
yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, it's been an hour. We're not over.
Jesus.
It's not well over. I was going to say. I was just like, shit. There's no way we can talk about Ready Player One for an hour. We're gonna have to fill. We're gonna have to fill it with
Nope.
Games Workshop talk for a while.
Managed.
Yeah, we did. I've got a tournament coming up. Just on a random. I've got a tournament coming up in. I was meant to do one in April, but I've got to go to my girlfriend's daughter's birthday trampoline party instead. So no playing with toy soldiers, just jumping around on trampolines instead.
No breaking elbows or anything else like that. Cause...
No. I've got one in May. I think I've got it on there in May. I'm kind of gutted because the one in April was an escalation one. So you started off with 500 points, and you went to 1,000, and it was 5 games, so you could start off with 3,000 points, end up with 3,000 points, and I would love to have done that. But there's no way she wouldn't let me do it.
Life gets in the way, man. Life gets in the way.
It does.
I've not played much 40k competitively. I tried it a little bit. Sometimes the players aren't that great. What I do love playing competitively is X-Wing.
Oh, right,
I must admit, I love that. There's such a great community. I mean, I've got a few guys that I get in touch with, and where I live, X-Wing is really competitive down this way. So even when I don't play, I can watch and enjoy it's a little bit more limited in how you play because it's all template based and everything else.
Yeah.
But it brings out so much finesse.
Yeah.
And some of the guys that I know, I'm lucky enough to be able to call friends, are so good at it and they're so applied to it. And I get to go along to one every now and again. And the community, I mean, give a case in point. This weekend in one of the X-Wing groups, a guy comes up over in Kenneset asking for people's advice because one of his friends he used to play with has just recently passed away, and he wants to hold like a tournament to raise money for charity.
Yeah.
So he puts it up at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, yeah?
Yeah.
Within an hour, 25 people have applied, and including some of the people that make sort of extras and things like that. And he already had basically, and some of the gaming groups, like the pilots groups, and he's already had like 8 or 9 offers of people that say, well, we'll arrange swag and prizes and stuff to go in. As and those 3 or 4 people have been suggested that might be able to help him find a venue. Oh. And then one of my friends who runs a gaming centre called War over in Bromley.
Okay, yeah.
He pops in and basically just says to him, I'm 30 minutes away from you. Give me a call and we'll arrange the times, but you can have the use of the shop for free. I mean, he runs 120, 130 person regionals in this place, right.
Yeah.
I've been there. It's manic. He gives him the shop for free. He says, no, so nothing, everything that's raised will be there. He'll help him organise it and promote it and everything else, and he'll throw in prize support. Wow. So within 2.5 hours, the guy's gone from I'd like to run a tournament to having anything up to probably, by the time they finish, he's probably going to end up with 2 or 3 grand's worth of prizes to put in, and a venue which runs regionals and everything else. And all he's got to do is pick up the phone this week and talk to him and get it all going on. So probably I'll be going up to Bromley in May, probably the bank holiday weekend, to play in that and trying to drag a couple of friends. And the people that are going there are people who have been world champions, European champions, British champions. I mean, not this weekend, just gone, the weekend before, they had the British tournament, the British Championships up in Birmingham, yeah?
Yeah.
Biggest X-Wing event ever. 508 people playing.
I saw some of the photographs from it, actually.
Yeah. And the next day, after they made the cut, they had what they call the hangar bay, which is like for the people that have turned up for the weekend but didn't make it through to the cut. Yeah. And that was the second biggest ever, because that was like 450 people.
I think I've got loads of X-Wing. You can kind of maybe see some in my things, but a I love X-Wing. I love Armada. I kind of prefer Armada, to be honest, because I like the bigger scale of it and stuff. But it's just like, every time I see X-Wing, it's only like a couple of ships. It's only like 2 or 3 ships sort of fighting each other and stuff. And I kind of was like, it kind of takes away from the whole big battles and stuff, you know?
Oh, they have epic play as well. I mean, you've got, obviously, the change of scale. But you have still got, you know, the Raider, you have the GR75 and everything else. You've now got some of the other bits and pieces thrown in as well. And I've had some pretty cool games at large scale, which are quite amusing. And I found Armada, I liked it. I had to stop myself because I was going to get hooked on it, and I was spending too much money already on it.
Yeah.
But it's a very different approach. It's a lot more thinking ahead, because you have this whole thing where you have the stacks of counters and stuff. With X-Wing, it can literally the whole game can turn around in like 5 minutes. All it comes down is someone making the wrong guess with their dice suddenly hating them, and they can go from being sort of 45-20 up to being like 125 dead. And you know, I mean, I've seen people run absolutely beautiful 2 turns, and hunt down and separate out and kill off one of the ships in a 2-ship list, and then lose their little ship, and then screw up, flip the dice over and go, oh crap, and they've flown an entire ship with no damage at all off the board. Just because they've done everything, and then they've done it, and they haven't double checked it, and they flipped over, and they've just gone
shit.
They just lean across, shake the other guy's hand, say, "It's yours, man."
Grim.
But they you know, people don't, you know, you can imagine that. I've seen it in 40k games where something like that happens, and someone will argue with the judge for 10 or 15 minutes, trying to justify why a decision they've made should be reversed. In this game, they're like, well, damn, I screwed that up, didn't I? Right, I'm going to go over there and watch these guys play.
There's not as much...
Let's go and see that.
The thing about 40k, not as bad in the 8th edition because it's not as cumbersome, but there is a lot of sort of like rules lawyering, and there has been times where like somebody's kind of played a move and went, yep, you can't do that. I'm just like, surely you can, and then it's like, nope, and then I've had this like, oh, I'm gonna have to ask. I don't want to be that guy, but it's just like, you know, I just don't see why you wouldn't be able to, and then it's, you know, being against me and stuff. Like some guy was running orcs and he was getting like multiple feel no pains, and I was just like, you can't do that, and he was like, yeah, I can, and I was just like, no, you can't, and then apparently he could. So I was just like, oh, there you go. So yeah,
but I mean, I love 40k. I've been playing 40k since well, sort of 17, 18. I kind of dallied with Rogue Trader when I, you know, with a friend when I was even younger than that. In fact, I've got a copy of Rogue Trader here, you know, because I picked up one of the reprints they did.
Oh, okay.
And I love the setting, and I love the game. I love it a lot more than I did in 6th and 7th edition. I basically stopped playing for most of 7th edition. It was doing my head in.
Yeah.
And I've fallen back in love with it properly with 8th edition and all. But if I'm gonna have, you know, if I had to pick a game to just have a chill out with some friends and just have a laugh, I would take X-Wing every time.
Okay.
Because I just find that it's, you know, it's not without its own faults as it is at the moment. This with the FAQs and stuff, because the stuff that they issued like 5 years ago is now interacting with stuff they've issued now, and all the FAQs, and there's like a decision tree you have to follow that you can follow now to figure out how certain things interact with each other, because they've layered all these different upgrade cards and pilots, and they now have like state cards that you can flip over and all this sort of thing. And yeah, that kind of sucks a little bit sometimes, but for a pure experience and for the people that play it, I find every day of the week I would rather be in a room full of X-Wing players than 40k players, because
40k players can be very well.
Yeah,
they can be very. Some of them can be a bit whack, and it's not even whack. It's sort of. I think when you're in a tournament, I was talking sort of some of the guys in the 40k group about this, and it's just like, what is whack, and you know, some people were just like people who, you know, in tournaments and stuff, and that's just like, I don't think they're whack, because it's not winning at all costs. They're just winning because it's a tournament, and if they optimize their list to a point where it's very good and hard, then that's just the way they play it. Now, I don't do that. I generally pick sort of competitive lists, but ones I kind of like, and so I wouldn't go pure sort of flyers and stuff like that, because I just don't think I'd enjoy it. But because of that, I generally end up in the middle of the table, and I generally play people who are on the same level as me, and I enjoy it because I'll have one game where I'll play the guy who wins the tournament, basically, or the guy who comes second, and he'll absolutely obliterate me. And then from that point on, games-wise, I'm doing quite well, or I'm enjoying myself because I'm playing at the same level as certain people like me and stuff. So it doesn't bother me and stuff. And I've had some amazing games, but conversely, you do have I played an orc guy, and in a tournament, and he was just moving because he had this big chunks. Now I liked the game. I liked the game because it was Custodes, and he didn't have that many against this literally hundreds of orcs.
Yeah, hordes.
He just hordes, and he just ran at me, and that was good in that way. But there were certain things that was slightly annoying me because he was taking ages because he had so many guys to do things. But towards the end, when I was sort of thinking, he was getting annoyed at me for being slow.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I'm not being slow, I'm just thinking about my moves. And it's just like, and be honest, you haven't exactly been fast throughout this game. It took about an hour and a half for one turn because he had to move everything. And so you get that sort of thing, especially towards the end when people are like losing, winning, and it gets a bit sort of tense in certain cases. Yeah. But you get some really amusing players. I played this orc guy once, and I completely annihilated him, but he was so good about it, and it was just like, he was playing it like he should. He was just like, lots of orcs, lots of random stuff that he wanted to play, and it was just hilarious because it was just doing random stuff, and I always thought it was a brilliant game because it was just like, it was just amusing to watch it all, and I enjoyed it, I
mean, I've played some good games. I mean, as a Crimson Fist player, I'm always going to want to play orcs if I can, because it just fits thematically. You get to make all the bad jokes. Yeah. But I mean, I've done a couple of tournaments, not for a little while, but there's one I did in my first game. I came up against this guy, and he said, and he was playing Dark Angel, so that was going to be an interesting match anyway. He said, "Look, fair game. I need to open this up to you." He said, 3 hours ago, I finished my second bottle of rum. And I just looked at him, and he was shagged. He was absolutely screwed. He was still so drunk it was untrue. He actually, at one point, I honestly thought he was going to fall down and take the table out.
Oh, no way.
Because he was hovering over doing stuff. So, there was places where I just had to give him do-overs because he quite obviously didn't have a clue what the hell he was doing. And it was like, do you really want to do that? He was like, but it's a tournament. I said, yeah, but dude, I can't bring myself to not point that out to you. Yeah. And it was actually a really fun game. But,
well, that's
conversely, in the same tournament, one of my friends had a game against a Chaos player, and the guy just bulldozed him and bullshitted him, and he just didn't give him a chance to think. He called over. He was trying to call over a judge, and the guy waved the judge off. And because he was a regular, he knew them. The judge just walked away, and my mate got to the end, and my mate actually sold his army after that because he couldn't be bothered. He couldn't bear to play the army again because he just felt so frustrated. The guy had basically, when he went back over it in his mind and started checking stuff, the guy had just fudged rolls, re-rolled stuff he shouldn't have re-rolled, and just bulldozed over him, and he got so bloody bludgeoned about it. And that typifies the two sort of negatives I've encountered. And I've had had really good games as well, but there are times when some people, one person can sour an entire weekend without even trying hard.
Yeah,
just by being who they are.
You do get people like that, and I've played a couple, and I make a point now. Like when I first started, if you're intimidated, you can get bulldozed quite easily. But I got to the point now, if I don't understand something or I ask to see it, and I'll say to them, look, I don't want to be that guy, but I want to see that rule. And they have to show me. And conversely, I make mistakes all the time, and I make mistakes all the time. And guys can you do that? And I was like, yeah, you can. And then I'll check the rule and go, oh no, I can't. And that's fine. It doesn't bother me. And it's just and I'm happy to give people, if they've for example, even in a tournament, if they've sort of started another phase and went, oh shit, I was meant to move that guy, I'm happy. Just that's fine. Move the guy. It doesn't bother me, man. It's just sort of like that. It's just when you do get those guys who's like, I'm a fast roller, and then they're rolling fucking dice everywhere, and like, yep, that's a hit. It's like, whoa, stop. Yeah. And it's just like, don't do that. because
Yeah.
you know I don't know you, and as much as I like to trust people, I don't know if I trust you. So just throw them normally.
You haven't earned it yet. Yeah.
And it's just like, and it is annoying. And there was this one guy I played, and I felt kind of tight, but I think he had. He obviously had, and he might have had some sort of, how do I say this without sounding like an absolute? I'm not going to say. He had some learning difficulties potentially.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he did or not, but basically, if I questioned him on anything, he went absolutely berserk. Like literally, just started hitting his head and getting. And I was like, shit. I don't know how to deal with this, and I don't want to be a guy who refuses to play with the guy who's got learning difficulties. Yeah. But it's just like, it wasn't making the game enjoyable at all, because...
No.
And I was trying my best just to sort of kind of go, okay, I'll just, do this, but I couldn't question him. He was just... If it did certain things, he'd get annoyed at me, or if I asked a question, he'd get annoyed at me, and I was just like, alright, man, just play it the way you want to play it, If, it's just, if that's the way you want to do it, then that's fine, and... So I just left it. But yeah, I can understand. Yeah. I can understand there are, but generally, I would say 3/4 of the games I play are good, enjoyable. I had an amazing game with a Grey Knights guy, Space Wolves versus Grey Knights, and we were both sort of just, messing up and just, it was just funny. It was just funny because I had like a flyer left, and I'd wiped out a lot of his stuff, and he had Drago with 1 wound left, and Drago basically one-shotted this fucking flyer with a pistol. It was just like, it was hilarious, but it was just such a good game because it was thematic and it was amusing. And when you get somebody who's quite close to you in that sort of way, you enjoy the games a lot more. I enjoy close games. I don't like games where you get absolutely, where either the dice get sort of, I had a game where when I was playing my Custodes, and it wasn't because of what I was doing or what the other guy was doing, it was just, I was just rolling ones all the time, and I literally didn't make a charge, I didn't hit anything, and my first turn was just a write-off, and after that point, I just gave up, and I just went, I'll just do whatever. So I played the game. I didn't sort of but I was just like, I can't do anything. It's like I just got so many ones. But yeah, it was just... I've seen people who have actually thrown their dice out after that, but my dice are a bit sort of temperamental. I've got like the old, the big box of Apocalypse dice you used to get with like skulls on them and stuff. I got those, and they can be, they can be good servants or harsh mistresses sometimes, so yeah. Okay, anyway, I think we've bored enough people with, and we've extended the extra 15 minutes on there, so the extra 15 minutes to make the hour and 15. So yeah, we'll leave the 40k. So if you're just listening to this now and you want to listen to Ready Player One, like it says in the Facebook group, then halfway we're sort of like from 10 or 15 minutes in till about an hour, so it goes on for about 45 minutes. So first 15 minutes Warhammer, second 15 minutes X-Wing and Warhammer. So there you go. It's sort of a geek sandwich. Yes. But anyway, thank you very much for everybody being quiet. Quite a few people watching, but not a lot of people talking today. But that's fine.
We scared them all.
We did scare them all with our good looks and superior geek knowledge. That's what it was. But yeah, so thank you very much for everybody who's watched. We have a message. Stacey Tyler Mullen. Hi, stranger. It's Stacey from the Mint Imperials. Hey, Stacey. Long time no see. These are the guys who I used to go out on tripping with. They used to dress up as obviously stormtroopers and Imperial guards and things like that and go out. But yeah, hey Stacey, and goodbye Stacey, because we're just about to leave now. So, but yeah, thank you very much for everybody who has been watching, and Stacey for commenting, being the first to comment, and hopefully this will be online next week. I need to put this week's on because I haven't done it yet. But yeah, thank you very much everybody. I've been Matt Geary. He's been Mark Can't he?
And I still am.
And he still is. Thanks very much, everybody. Good night.
Night.